sides were spotted shaking each other's hands. Resistance in Poltava, Ukraine. True meaning behind Z and V. 20 kilometers away from Kiev, what's left of Borodyanka bounty on heads of Ukrainian generals.
What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude, and this is your 8th day update on the Russian-Ukrainian war.
The airport of Gostomel, which is next to Kiev, Ukraine. A man in Kharkiv, Ukraine was able to film an airstrike. Ikea announced that it's closing all of its stores across Russia. And here you can see Russian people trying to buy as much furniture as possible on the last day. Marauders across Ukraine are still being caught, detained and humiliated. No matter which country you are from, maraudering is the worst thing you can do to your homeland. This is what happens if you arrive in Germany on the car with Russian license plates. I know every country has good and bad people, but this hatred towards regular Russian citizens, in my opinion, is unjustified. Sanctions previously imposed on Russia significantly increase the chances of default of Russia. Funds that have money invested in Russian companies have more than $4 billion frozen because of sanctions. Belovezhskaya Pushcha on the territory of Belarus is where negotiations held place. The second round of negotiations between Russia and Ukraine has happened previously, and sides were spotted shaking each other's hands. And even though it went off with a good start, the sides unfortunately haven't reached any significant agreements, except the establishment of humanitarian corridors, which allows to evacuate civilians, and potential ceasefire during this evacuation.
And if you want to continue receiving daily updates like this, make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Also, feel free to share this video with your friends. Thanks so much, and let's continue.
The consequences of artillery strikes in Independent Republic of Donetsk recognized by Russia. Buchansky district, not that far from Kiev, Ukraine. Warehouses 20 kilometers away from Kiev, Ukraine, were caught on fire. Devastating videos of what's left of Borodyanka, Ukraine. Ukrainian Navy ship Getman Sagaidachny was sunk. The London Stock Exchange announced that shares of some Russian companies will not be traded anymore, and such companies, for example, are Gazprom, Rosneft, Lukoil and VK. Russia is the second biggest manufacturer of oil, with a little bit more than 9 million barrels of crude oil produced every single day. Ukraine has made it a criminal offense to deny the fact of Russian invasion. Airstrike in Chernigov, Ukraine was caught on dashcam. The USA delays its nuclear tests to de-escalate tensions with Russia. Spotify closes its offices in Russia and limits content in Ukraine. Russian cats and dogs were also sanctioned. They are no longer able to participate in international competitions. The security service building in Kharkiv, Ukraine was spotted to be on fire. Ukrainian Air Force dormitory was destroyed in Kharkiv, Ukraine. These are the streets of downtown of Kharkiv, Ukraine. Borodyanka, Ukraine. The city was literally obliterated. It is reported that there are mines that can be found in the streets of Kherson, Ukraine. Binance, one of the biggest crypto exchanges, has problems with accepting some of Russian cards. After Apple suspended its activities in Russia on March 2nd, it then resumed sales the next day, with the prices going up as high as 20%. European Union received the application of Ukraine to be a part of the Union. However, the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, said that the war first has to be over. This is the condition of Mariupol, Ukraine. Ukrainian resistance in Poltava, Ukraine. University in Milan, Italy, just banned teaching Fyodor Dostoevsky simply because he was a Russian writer. Even though in the past Dostoevsky himself was sent to Siberian labor camp for reading banned books in Russia. Later on, Italian university removed this ban due to backlash from the public. Super yacht of Russian billionaire Alisher Usmanov, worth approximately $600 million, was confiscated in Germany. The Ministry of Defense of Russia finally explained the true meaning behind Z and V markings on Russian military vehicles, where Z means «За победу», which means for the victory, and V means «Сила в правде», which means power in truth. Earlier in Russia it was suggested to send people who were detained in anti-war protests to fight in Ukraine. But later on, the press secretary of Russian President Dmitry Peskov said that military is an honor and privilege, and this cannot be used as a punishment. Therefore, most likely this will not happen. Malls, Epicenter and Selpo are on fire in Mariupol, Ukraine. Russian humanitarian support was delivered in Kherson region, Ukraine. The Ministry of Defense representatives Representative John Kirby acknowledged that the USA continues to send weapons to Ukraine. Wikipedia put an announcement that it might be blocked in Russia because of its article about the Russian invasion of Ukraine. The airstrike close to South train station in Kiev was spotted on camera. Some Russian banks impose 30% fee on the purchase of foreign currencies. This is the current list of some Russian individuals and organizations that are under Canadian sanctions. The Vice Minister of Defense of Kazakhstan, Sultan Kamaledinov, says that they are not supporting neither Russia nor Ukraine. Some cars in China were spotted having Z marks on them in support for Russia. The President of France, Emmanuel Macron, says that he stands with regular Russian people. Oil base in Chernigov, Ukraine, was caught on fire. Russian Navy ships were spotted next to Odessa. Baghdad, Iraq, supports Russia. Latvia donated 90 drones to the army of Ukraine. Russian military vehicles are still spotted next to Kherson, Ukraine. Russia is ready to accept refugees from Mariupol, Ukraine. Residential buildings in Mariupol, Ukraine are on fire. This is the current list of countries that offers its support to Ukraine. Feel free to pause the video. Director of Foreign Intelligence Service of Russia, Sergei Naryshkin, is a little bit afraid of Putin. Red paint was spotted on the Consulate General of Russia in Paris, France. Downtown of Chernigov, Ukraine. This is the current map of anti-war protests in Russia, and at this very moment 7,610 people were detained in at least 115 cities. Airstrike consequences in the village of Yakovlevka in Kharkivsky region. The military forces of Belarus were spotted to be on standby. International support to Ukraine was estimated to be around $15 billion. Melitopol, Ukraine, is protesting against Russian military forces. These are more pictures from Borodyanka, Ukraine. School bomb shelter in Nikolaevka, Ukraine. The president of Chechnya, Ramzan Kadyrov, put a $500,000 bounty on heads of Ukrainian generals. Yelena Osipova, one of the few survivors of the siege of Leningrad during World War II, was detained yesterday in St. Petersburg during anti-war protests. People are still having troubles accessing cash from ATMs in Moscow, Russia. Cars and other obstacles were placed on Odessa International Airport's runway to prevent Russian planes from landing. Missiles were spotted in Energodar, Ukraine. This is the current state of military operation in Ukraine. People in South Ossetia support Russia. If you participate in anti-war protests in Russia, you can get up to 6 years in jail. 16,000 volunteers have arrived to fight for Ukraine. Nuclear power plant in Zaporozhye, Ukraine was under attack. In 1 week, more than 1 million Ukrainians have left the country, which is around 2% of its population.
Thank you so much for your support, and until next time.